And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, June 21st. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Sleeper. Easy main slate today. Thought I was getting a good early. Certainly didn't. But we got 6 games to talk about for tonight. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, are you going out tonight to celebrate the longest day of sunlight of the year?
Did not know that was the case. And no, because I've seen no sunlight today. It's just rainy.
Shame. Maybe that's why Baltimore was so terrible today.
That could be it.
Yeah. Could have used it. Thoughts on acquiring Marcus Morris? Is this going to be a big day for you, potentially?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this should have been done years ago, and now they're finally doing it. It sucks. Like, obviously was hoping to get more for Porzingis than the 30th overall pick, but yeah, whatever. At least they got something.
Sure. Yeah, it's better than nothing, I guess. I wish they had, like, neither team really has like a young dude that you could get back as well that like makes it interesting. But right. Yeah, get a little bit of something.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the Twitter rumors where it was like, oh yeah, they're gonna ship Porzingis to Portland for Brandon Miller, and it was like, that's never gonna happen. But like, if it did, that would have obviously been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, in theory, there could be something there. It's just not very likely. Like, the Wizards probably have to give back a bunch, like, their pick plus other nonsense. I think Thursday or tomorrow is going to get really wild. There's just a lot in play right now, whether it's just, like, moving draft picks, trying to get young guys, so many stars that are, like, iffy right now. I think it's going to be a very interesting draft day. And by the way, we'll be live for it. Keep your eyes peeled, but I'm going live for the draft tomorrow. Don't know who's joining me. Doesn't matter.
Also, from like the Wizards' point of view, getting 30 is actually not that. It's like getting a mid-round pick, because even if they had gotten like pick 15, they would have taken the 30th best player. So it's not.
Well, are you optimistic now?
No.
Now that they have like a different front office.
I mean, yes and no. Like, I'm optimistic. I mean, they got a new front office. They immediately are doing what they should be doing. The biggest concern I'd had with them was, is Ted Leonsis going to continue making them just chase the 8 seed? And it appears that that's not the case. So I'm optimistic on that end. I still assume that at some point over the next couple of years, they screw up stuff before they're actually good.
Yeah, if I were you, or like a Wizards fan in general, like, my blood would just be boiling that Beal didn't get traded 2 years ago. And so you don't have 4 unprotected firsts, 3 swaps, and something else.
And even like ignoring that, just don't give him the no trade clause.
Yeah, it's
like it's already come out that they had better offers, obviously, than Phoenix, and Beal was just like, I'm going to Phoenix.
Total clown show.
There was, I think it was on Facebook, actually, not Twitter, but there was a picture of all the players in NBA history that have had no trade clauses, and one of them stood out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it's they don't come out all that often. It's, for some strange reason, they only give them generally to like really good dudes.
Yeah, like they give them to the guys that would never get traded anyway.
Yeah, it's like, Steph Curry doesn't have a no trade clause. It's like, well, no, because they don't have to.
Right.
It's, I don't know.
Right. Like that was the takeaway from like the picture. It was like every player on there you look at and you're like, yeah, well, they weren't, like, it was a formality. Like,
yeah.
Tim Duncan wasn't getting traded.
No, not at all. I don't know what would have had to happen for that to happen. Yeah. You ended up with anything decent on the early?
No, I mean, I have teams going still. Like, the Houston game was my highest owned game. So yeah. I'm getting a bunch of teams cashing the $15 now, but I got knocked out of the money in 3 max where I hadn't played that game. So no, not a good slate overall, unless somehow one of these teams really just goes on a run in the next hour.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a little bit better for me early, and then it just fell apart once Houston and the Mets went absolutely bonkers. Yeah, Shout out to whatever the name of the Red starter is who salvaged those 3 solo dongs, because I was ready to go kill him. I mean,
Colorado was, I think, my second highest owned stack behind Houston, sandwiched between Houston and the Mets. So could have definitely been a better day. But
10 Ks just mowing people down. Finally found his strikeout stuff. You ready to talk baseball?
Yep.
The Yankees have a 3.2 run implied total. The Mariners are at 4.1. Johnny Brito going for the Yanks. Luis Castillo going for the Mariners. 3% ownership going into Brito. 48 coming into Luis Castillo. That is where we need to start. How do you feel about 48% ownership up against a Yankees team that isn't really the Yankees team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's perfectly fine. The thing that stands out here is that Castillo is $1,000 less expensive than Ohtani. So, and Ohtani also has a very tough matchup with the Dodgers, but Ohtani's got the highest strikeout percentage on the slate. Castillo is second at 29.5%, but you're getting $1,000 discount. He's got the better xFIP between the two. He's got the better matchup. Yankees active roster has a 90 WRC plus this season. Not a ton of strikeouts there, but enough, a slightly below average strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching. Castillo obviously really, really good. So it's the combination of Ohtani facing the Dodgers and being $1,000 more. And then also Sonny Gray is at this price point. He's got a tough matchup with the Red Sox. We also have some questions about what exactly is going on with Sonny Gray's workload recently. So it's just the spot where, it's not perfect. It's a negative park shift going into Yankee Stadium instead of T-Mobile Park. It is a team that still has competent hitters that can do damage. But when you look in this price range, where else are you going first? Like you shouldn't be prioritizing getting to Ohtani for $1,000 more against the Dodgers. Not that he's a bad play. He's good, but you're not getting there before you get to Castillo, at least from a building lineup standpoint. If you start factoring in ownership and stuff, that's not the conversation I'm trying to have right now. But just from where are you going to go first? You're getting to him before you get to Ohtani at that elevated price tag. You're getting to him before you take Gray against the Red Sox. You're getting to him before you take Kopech against the Rangers. It's just clearly the best spot of those guys.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous that I don't have a lot, or at least more. I'm pretty neutral to Ohtani, but I'm a little light on Castillo because of Darvish right now, which is a conversation we'll have in a little bit. I don't have anything to say. Like, I'm higher on Luis Castillo in my data than we are. We had him 34% top two pitcher. I had him 44, and I'm still having trouble getting to that point. So going to be interested to see that as we move on for the next 2 hours.
And I mean, the second part of the conversation is that he is going over owned, in terms of optimal percentage and all of that. So it's not that you have to just eat this chalk. You have other options that are lower owned, but from a pure just, projection standpoint, who's most likely to succeed standpoint, he stands out as the best in terms of the combination of salary and likelihood of success.
Yeah, we're talking about the guy that I have as the highest projected pitcher. I don't want to, like you said, ownership starts to become a different point of this discussion. But I think we would say that Luis Castillo is the best combination of upside and price today.
Right.
Or do you think that's
I haven't built
Darvish?
lineups yet, so I couldn't tell you what my actual exposures look like. But he's ownership agnostic. He is the best combination of salary, upside, chances of success.
Brito?
He is, I noticed it when I was moving stuff into my spreadsheet. He is one of two pitchers on this slate that we have projected below Shohei Ohtani, the batter.
Oh, boy. Paul Blackburn?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, Minaya doesn't count.
Well, yeah, it was whoever's pitching for. So we have Ryan Walker in there. So he was the other one.
Right. That makes sense. Let's see. We have Ohtani at, oh, shit, I don't have it in front of me. What do I have Ohtani at? 9.9, I think.
We have Ohtani at 10.8 on DraftKings. We have Ohtani the hitter at 10.8 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
We have Brito at 10.5.
I have him at 9.9. I have Brito higher, but I do have Paul Blackburn less, so we'll get to that.
You need to fix your Paul Blackburn projection.
We'll see. I mean, do I? Is it really going to change anything if I move him to 12?
Yeah, I'm just saying that he's probably better than you're giving him credit for.
Yeah, I don't like that because he used to be the butt of the jokes on this channel for at least for Spags. We got to talk Mariners bats here. I'm very intrigued. So I'm getting to a lot of the Mariners bats. They are 8th in ownership, 9th in our top stack, 6th in top value. I have them 3rd in top stack for today, which does make me feel a little bit nervous, but I love this lineup. There's so much power. It's a great park for power. And I don't exactly give Brito a lot of skill set. So talk to me here about Seattle, because this is a team I want to get to. And 8th in ownership is pretty appealing to me on a 6-game slate.
No, I'm right there with you as far as wanting to get there. Not only is it a nice park shift for them going from one of the worst hitters parks in baseball to a good one, Burrito's given up power to both sides of the plate this year. The wind is blowing in. That's like the only thing here. It's 70 degrees, wind is blowing in. That's the only reason I can think of that you only have a 3.8 implied run total here on the Mariners, because Burrito has not been good. He gives up power, and you have tons of it in this Mariners lineup. They have a lot of strikeouts as well, but Julio Rodriguez, Teoscar Hernandez, Ty France, like those guys can all obviously do damage from the right side. Jared Kelenic in one of the best left-handed power parks in baseball. Cal Raleigh made it into my article today, switched up the format a little bit, more of a slate overview. But as far as the top hitters on the slate, Raleigh made it in for me at 4,600 on DraftKings, but power hitting catcher from the left side in Yankee Stadium, sign me up for that. That's going to look really good. Jose Caballero doesn't have a ton of power, but he's leading off at 2,400. That's a nice value piece. Mike Ford batting 8th at 2,200. Not somebody you're excited about getting to, but it's a value piece, left-handed bat that has some pop in Yankee Stadium. I'm with you as far as liking the Mariners, especially at relatively low ownership. And I don't totally understand, again, the wind's blowing in. That's the only real thing I see. I don't totally understand why this isn't a higher implied run total.
Yeah, I'm a fan here. I think it's a great spot. I'm sort of loading up here. Kelenic in particular at 4% ownership is the guy that's like standing out to me as, well, if he's 4% owned, I'm going to try to buy a home run today. Love it. So sign me up for all of Seattle. Do you have any interest in the Yankees?
Not too much. It's somewhat interesting just because it is a 6-game slate. So obviously the opportunity cost isn't as high. You do have left-handed bats here with Bowers, Calhoun, Rizzo in particular that, just they're capable of hitting a short fly ball to right field for a home run. And it is a big park downgrade for Castillo. He is going to be nearly 50% owned. So it's a good enough lineup where I think you could at least make the case of like, well, what if this happens to be one of the few starts of the season where Castillo just doesn't have it? It's a pretty easy path to the top of a tournament if the Yankees happen to go off, but I still wouldn't expect to get to too much of them.
Is there anything else we should be touching on for this game in particular? Like, do you do anything different on a 6-game slate? Anything that you pay attention to a little bit differently?
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the only real difference is that obviously you're going to be getting to more things that you don't necessarily like just because there's limited things to like. And on this slate, there is pretty solid pitching too. So it makes the offenses overall look pretty weak.
And that's part of the reason that I kind of like Seattle, just given the way that this is set up. Like, I don't.
Right. I mean, that's what I was going to say too. Like, you look at the offenses on this slate, and Seattle really doesn't look that bad. Like, even looking at the teams that have higher implied run totals, Minnesota and Boston both have higher implied run totals. They're facing solid pitchers in Sonny Gray and Garrett Whitlock. The Guardians have a higher implied run total. They suck. Both sides of the Texas and White Sox game have higher implied run totals, but Kopech's not bad. Martin Perez is at least competent enough to, get lucky here and there. Both sides of the Angels game have higher implied run totals. Shohei Ohtani's pitching against the Dodgers. Angels look pretty good against Grove. And then the Padres and Giants game, similar run totals to the Mariners. That game's in San Francisco. Like, you have, there's no Coors game. There's no Braves. There's no Reds. Like, there's no just very obvious, how does this offense fail spots on this slate.
It's going to be a good one. Go Mariners. So I assume Johnny Brito is going to become some sort of masterclass pitcher for today, because that seems to be the way that my life works lately. I got nothing else.
Me neither.
Alrighty, perfect. Well, let's talk schedule then for the rest of the day. Actually, let's do this first. 430 people in here right now. Only 67 likes. Not going to get it done. We need to run that number up to 100 likes at a minimum. We're going to be looking for a lot more. Oh, by the way, I'm coming for you, Greg Ehrenberg and Neil Orfield. Guess who got their DraftKings summer package in the mail today? Josh is going to start wearing his bucket hat, his towel, his sunglasses, and his shitty beach bag.
I actually I grabbed my bucket hat earlier today because it was sitting in the box like on my couch and I'd forgotten about it. And so I was wearing that around while I was making early slate lineups.
I went downstairs today and package was sitting on the tabletop, and like my wife gets a new package from Amazon or something like literally every day, and I never pay attention to it. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's my name. I was like, well, I don't remember ordering anything. Like, I just, I forgot that I filled out that form and shit on DraftKings. And then all of a sudden I opened it up and I was like, oh my God, this is way uglier than I thought it was going to be. Great beach towel, I guess. Something that I did not need more of.
So that is something I actually could use, like not for the beach, just like for the pool. Yeah. I think the only like even pool towel I have is like the one I bought at Coastal Carolina when I was a freshman.
Yeah, like I don't have a shortage of those, given that we've owned a pool for a decade at this point. We've cornered that market a bit.
The confusing one for me recently was I get a text from my mom like, you got a package delivered here in your name from some like botany place. I'm like, I don't know what that is. It was Underdog sending out cactuses for everybody that max entered the Best Ball Mania last year.
Were you like, you could have that?
No, it's the lone decoration in my apartment now.
You happen to be home at that point?
No, I've been home since.
That's what I mean. Like, if it were right now, like with nothing, like if it had nothing coming up, it'd have been like, congrats, you got a cactus.
Oh yeah, it was.
It's not like you were gonna go get it on purpose.
No, it was just. I mean, I usually go visit like once a month, so I just grabbed it when I was there.
Yeah, it's. Thank you to DraftKings. I appreciate the package, but boy, oh boy, do I not need any of that stuff. The beach bag in particular, there might be 100 of those hanging in my garage right now.
You opted in to get that stuff, right?
Well, yeah, but like, it's not like I chose out of a bunch of different things and still took the beach bag. It was like, do you want this summer package? Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Hey, I'm just happy it doesn't have Katie's name monogrammed on the front of it like the other 10 we have.
There you go.
Every single one of them, man. It's awful. Anyway, thank you for getting us up over 100 likes. Schedule for the rest of the day is easy. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. After this, they'll take you from 6 to 7. And then we got PGA Live Before Lock from 8 to 9 tonight. So you've got 2 more live shows coming up. And at least on the PGA show, they might touch on it a little bit. Maybe the guys on Live Before Lock will touch on it. Sports betting's a thing, folks. This isn't just a DFS show. We do talk sports betting from time to time. My recommendation, sign up at BetMGM. If you want to get yourself on the sports betting side, we have a link in the description with, honestly, the best deal you're going to get. 1 month of Stochastic Plus Platinum for free. That's well over $100 value. And up to $1,000 paid back in bet credits after your first bet settles. You should try to put down $1,000 if you can. But even if you put down $100 on your first bet and it wins, everything stays the same. It stays in your account. You don't have to pay attention to anything. The deal is just already done. But if it loses, you'll get that $100 back in bet credits. You basically get a second shot at it. You see the graphic on the screen right now. Easy for you to do. All you have to do is sign up using the link in the description. You do have to deposit at least $10, but my recommendation, try to get as much in as you can for that first run, because that first bet has a little bit of buffer for you. Can make you feel a little bit better with your sports betting endeavors. And obviously, we've got plenty of content at Odds Shopper or the Odds Shopper YouTube channel that can help you out. Oh, man. What am I missing here? How did we get on your car, Adam?
Brandon Katz's dad guessed that I drive a lifted pickup truck.
No. Although I get that guess. You would need a lift to get into that pickup truck.
David Eckenrode, Adam doesn't drive.
Yeah. You would need a lift to get into that pickup truck. I'll go with that. Jordan, what were you saying? Oh, yeah. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Gotcha, Jordan. We're good. I appreciate you being in my ear for that one. I do need to say that. Guardians and A's. 4.6 run implied total for the Guardians. 3.6 for the A's. Gavin Williams going for the Guardians. 5,700. Also, 32% owned. Paul Blackburn going for Oakland. 8,200 unowned. And should be. Let's start with Gavin Williams. What do we want to do here with the premier paydown option for today's slate?
Yeah, I mean, he looks good from a value standpoint for sure. 35% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher, making his major league debut in as good a spot as you're going to get against the A's. former first round pick, really solid numbers at AAA this year, projects to be good, or at least, competent rest of season. Most of the projection models on FanGraphs have him around 22 to 23% K percentage, 4.5 FIP. The ownership is probably a little bit extreme. You do have potential pivots. You have Michael Grove with a similar chance of being a top 2 value pitcher at a quarter of the ownership if you need to take that. You have Martin Perez, who is getting a tenth of the ownership. But in terms of value, Williams does look like the best. Like I said, strikeout numbers were good at AAA this year. Projects to be an average to above average strikeout pitcher in the majors right out of the gate.
Yeah, I got 37% right now. Happy to go there. Anytime you can get a matchup against Oakland, it's probably going to look pretty good. Should we be paying attention to Paul Blackburn at 8,200 in this spot, given the fact that he does have a 25% K rate through 20 innings this season? That is not Paul Blackburn normally. Unfortunately for Paul Blackburn, this is probably the worst strikeout matchup in the league.
Yeah, not a good strikeout matchup, not a good offense. So that's the part that interests me here is I understand why there's so much ownership coming into Cleveland, but they suck. And it's not like it's a great hitter spark. So it's, I don't know, like Blackburn's never been awful. He's definitely been worse than he is this year, but he's always been somebody that when he's on, at least can get ground balls, can live around the edges of the strike zone. This year, you've seen the uptick in strikeout percentage. He's been solid in terms of limiting production, 4.06 xFIP. I don't have interest in going to Blackburn because he's $8,200 and in a bad strikeout matchup. But I think he's been good enough and Cleveland is bad enough that it is interesting that, they're really popular. And again, I get it. There's value there. Blackburn is still, historically at least, one of the weaker pitchers on the slate, although he hasn't been this year. So yeah, it's a really interesting spot. Like I did my Sims video earlier and Cleveland was showing up a ton, even though they're popular. So I get it. It's a spot where I get it if like you end up overweight on Cleveland and just differentiating by mixing in some lower owned secondary stacks, mixing in some lower owned pitchers. That's what we were getting in the Sims tool earlier. But I also wouldn't mind it at all if I just don't really get to one of the worst offenses in baseball against right-handed. One of the worst offenses in baseball against right-handed pitching at massive ownership.
This is a really weird career for Paul Blackburn. So in 55 games, 52 of those have been starts. I don't know if the 3 others were like he was the long reliever behind an inning or anything like that. He has 111 innings thrown in 1 year. The next most is 58. He's done that over 7 years. He's had basically no skills for most of this. It's incredible that like he just gets trotted out still now at 29, after everything that he's done for the previous 6 years.
He had a big jump in production last season. He went from a 14 to 15% K percentage in each of his previous 3 years up to 19% last year. 3.89 xFIP last year.
Yeah, that is a little... Yeah, that's wild. You would not have seen that coming, right?
No, not at all.
And I don't even see anything like in the underlying data that is weird.
Right. It's not like he came back throwing like 100 miles an hour or something.
No.
His velocity, he's averaging 91.7 on his fastball this year. He averaged that last year. That's faster than he threw previously, but you're talking about like a mile per hour, maybe.
Yeah.
He has a cutter now. That's the big thing. I guess he started throwing a cutter last year. If you look at his pitch types on FanGraphs, that's what really stands out. But other than that, there's nothing really in velocity or anything.
Right. Well, let's talk about Cleveland. Second in top stack, second in value, second in ownership. I mean, they should be getting a little bit of love in this park against the theory of Paul Blackburn. Are you getting away from them just like entirely? Do you want to at least?
So I said it a minute ago, but like this is a spot where I wouldn't be upset if I look and I'm getting a bunch of Cleveland as long as basically what was happening in the Sims tool when I did that video earlier was we're getting a lot of like Michael Kopech with Cleveland, a lot of Yankees 2-mans, 3-mans with Cleveland, stuff like that, where you're balancing it out with high upside, low probability type plays. That's giving you a path to win if Cleveland does well. But I wouldn't mind it at all if I'm just getting away from this team, getting to more of some of the other offenses that project pretty well on the slate, because I do think the other thing to keep in mind with Blackburn here is, yeah, he had been really bad in the past, but it's not like you ever had a ton of major league appearances either. The most games he had ever pitched in the major leagues prior to last year was 10 in 2017. He pitched 9 in 2021. So it's not like you had some massive sample size of him being really bad. Like, obviously he wasn't good and he's gotten better, but if you go back and just look since the start of last year at what Paul Blackburn has done, lefties have a 312 expected WOBA with a 135 expected ISO. Righties have a 305 expected WOBA with a 150 expected ISO. I guess my point is, like, let's say that from 2017 to 2021, Paul Blackburn was just like toiling away at AAA and you had never heard of him. And then he comes up last year, does what he did last year, and then does, what he's done through his first 4 starts this year. I think you would be looking at him totally differently, or looking at this matchup totally differently.
Yeah. I'm a little light overall on Cleveland. The only guy that I'm basically with the field on is Jose Ramirez. And I don't give a shit who's pitching on the opposite side. Like, at least he's just good. So I am light on a lot of these guys. My question to you is this: what do you want to do with Oakland? 10th in top stack, number 1 in value, $3,200 Ruiz in the leadoff spot is the only guy that's more expensive than $2,600. This team is literally free for today. Is that appealing against Gavin Williams making his debut with 30% ownership, I might add?
To some extent, yeah, because for one, that's an added bonus, like you said, or the 30% ownership, like you said. But the way I'm kind of thinking about it too is when you look at the top stacks tool and you look at the top value teams, we have Oakland first, 29% chance of being the top value stack because, like you said, they are literally free. Cleveland is second at 15%. Chicago's third at 14.5%. The Guardians are pulling 13% aggregate ownership. White Sox are pulling 11. Oakland's only pulling 7. So if you take the approach where you're playing a lot of Cleveland and you're mixing in some lower owned spots, you probably don't really need to use Oakland because Cleveland's giving you that value. But if you end up getting away from Cleveland, Oakland makes a lot of sense because it is a volatile spot against somebody making his major league debut. Gavin Williams is probably better than most hitters on Oakland, but it's a 1-game sample. You never know how guys are going to look in their major league debuts. And when you look at the ownership in this game, with the exception of 12% going to Astory Ruiz, everything at the top is Cleveland. And even Ruiz would be the 5th most popular hitter on Cleveland at 12%. So this is a spot where, Oakland is less likely to succeed than Cleveland is, but you're getting so much less aggregate ownership coming into this team when they're serving the same purpose in terms of value. If you stack Oakland, or if you 3-man, 2-man stack Oakland for value, you're going to be able to do whatever you want around them, just like you can with Cleveland. So it kind of just comes down to, like, is Oakland really half as likely to succeed as Cleveland? And I think it's really hard to make the case that they are. Like, they've actually been more productive. They've been slightly more productive against right-handed pitching this year than Cleveland has. 93 WRC plus for them, 92 for Cleveland, 136 ISO for Oakland, 124 for Cleveland. I'm not saying any of that as if Oakland is actually good. More so just Cleveland does suck.
It looks like Gallo might be going to the Wizards too. So buckle up, buddy. Things are getting better for you.
I was like, there's a Gallo on this MLB slate that we're talking about.
Oh yeah, not Joey Gallo. Amir Coffey too. Okay. It looks like this might be done. So,
I mean, I like the Amir Coffey piece. Like, can't hurt.
No. Zinger to Boston was not something I was expecting.
No, I mean, good for them.
Yeah, rank the game.
Just in terms of, like, I think what you're looking like chances of success, basically. I think it's it's either Cleveland or Williams, kind of depending on if you need pitching or hitting in that lineup. Oakland 3rd, Blackburn 4th.
Twins and Red Sox are in a bit of a coin flip game, right around a 4.2 run implied total for both. Adams boy Sonny Gray on the hill for Minnesota. Garrett Whitlock going for Boston. 9% ownership coming into Sonny Gray, 14 for Garrett Whitlock. I'm not really getting to either pitcher here, but I kind of think they're both pseudo properly owned.
Yeah, I think Whitlock might be going a little bit overlooked when you factor in the value component. 14% projected ownership right now, 18% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So already there, looking a little bit under-owned, but then a 24% chance of being a top 2 value as well. I like the value piece there. Like, he's kind of at a price point by himself. There's nobody else between 7K and 8K on DraftKings. So I think you're going to see a lot of people for value go down to Gavin Williams. But I think in a lot of lineups, you're going to be able to build a very comparable lineup if you go to Whitlock instead. He's only $1,300 more. So I think that there's a path there where, if he just beats Gavin Williams, you can have very comparable lineups where you go Whitlock instead at a fraction of the ownership. So I do like him quite a bit. You have Minnesota leading the league in strikeout percentage against right-handed pitching this year at 28.5%. I added there's a new section in my article that I put out today with just like the game of the day, the game that I think is the most interesting from a tournament standpoint. It was this one because you're not getting a lot of ownership going to the Twins, and they do have upside. They do, have power hitters in that lineup. They can certainly do damage. They're an above average offense overall, but you also don't have a lot going to Whitlock, and everything is so cheap here where Whitlock is $7K. The Twins are free except for Correa and Buxton. Essentially, nobody else is more than $3,800 on DraftKings. So it sets up as a spot where you don't know which side is going to win out, but it's very likely that either a 7K Whitlock or a very inexpensive Minnesota team comes away as a very good value piece on this slate.
This is a weird one. I basically just don't have this game. I'm under on the Red Sox, under on the Twins, under on Gray, under on Whitlock.
I don't know where to go with where I'll be, but I would love to, at the very least, I would love to be over on both Whitlock and Minnesota. I think the Gray and Boston side is a similar dynamic, but the difference is that they're all expensive. So it becomes, Boston's not that expensive, but the top middle, the middle part of their order is not cheap. So there it kind of becomes, there's more of a window for Sonny Gray to be decent, but not really good at 9,700, and the Red Sox to be decent, but not really good when you had to pay for some of them. Whereas it's so hard to find a middle ground where neither of Whitlock or the Twins do well.
I need to hope that everybody doesn't do well. 4-3 incoming.
Yeah, but even that, like Whitlock 7K, let's say he gives up 3 runs. If he strikes out 6 guys, he's still giving you a good score.
Yeah, at that point, then we're just having a conversation of did he beat Gavin Williams?
Right, exactly.
I just obviously Correa looks great. Buxton looks great. These guys look good all the time because they're just good. Kirilloff getting a lefty-righty potential home run, great. Whatever you want to do. Joey Gallo, massive power, obviously. I would say that this is sort of like the most game out of everything, even in terms of just looking at the ownership. 5th for the Twins, 7th for the Red Sox. Gray is relatively low. Whitlock is not exactly highly owned for a 6-gamer. This is the most in-between game on paper.
Yeah, and I think that makes it, to me, probably the most interesting game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't mind having probably the Twins side of this one just because I think there's more power there. It just doesn't appear to be happening. I have 450-man stacks. Rank the game.
Whitlock, Twins, Red Sox, Gray.
Oh man, you're not going to be able to go to the meetings or anything anymore. The Sonny Gray fan club. They're going to pay for that. You shouldn't have said that.
So the reasoning for me is that Verdugo, Turner, Devers, Yoshida are all relatively expensive, but the rest of Boston is cheap. So you do have that at least somewhat of a value component. But then I do also just have some concerns about what exactly they're doing with Sonny Gray. 79 pitches in 4 innings last time out. Gave up 2 runs. Not like he was pitching horribly. 76 pitches in 5 innings, 1 run against Toronto 2 starts ago, 90 pitches in 6 2/3 against Cleveland. That one was fine. 79 pitches in 6 innings. Again, they probably just pulled him after 6, but for a $9,700 pitcher, you do not have the guaranteed workload that you would like from Sonny Gray.
Anything else here for Twins and Red Sox?
No.
Alrighty, folks, hit that thumbs up once again. We're up to 140. I see no reason with the 650 people that are in here that we can't get 1 like for every pound that Zion Williamson weighs. That was the task yesterday. I think we go right back to it. We should be able to get up to 300. That should be a fun time. We got to talk a little bit about Sleeper. They are the sponsor of the show for today. Boy, oh boy, is this a great spot for you guys to sign up. 1, click the link in the description. You'll get up to $100 on your first deposit. That right there, easy stuff. Put in 100, get 100. You're starting off with 200. We talk about these pick'em sites a lot, and they're really fun. When you're not in a legal sports betting state, these pick'em sites are your lifeblood. And Sleeper's doing it a little bit different because so much we're used to seeing just even action on both sides. Oh, is this guy gonna have, more than 7 fantasy points or less than 7 fantasy points? Now we're sort of bringing juice into the equation. There are 100x payouts available for you at Sleeper, and there are dynamic payouts. So the over for one of these sides might be juiced aggressively, or vice versa. The under might be juiced aggressively. So if you take it, instead of it just being even action like most pick'em sites, you might get 2x, 3x, 4x by taking that side. That changes up everything that you're doing. If you're looking to, even if you're in a non-legal sports betting state, sort of like myself, where I might have it in the future, this is a great way to get yourself started with the mechanics of what you want to do, particularly on the prop side. This can get you warmed up for whenever your state gets out of the Stone Age and allows you to bet on sports. So my recommendation, go check out Sleeper. Link in the description. Click it, head on over, make your deposit. The minimum is $20. My recommendation, put in 100, you'll get another 100. Sign up at Sleeper. We got 3 more games to talk about. We just got the Angels and Rangers lineup, so we're slowly but surely getting there. Let's talk White Sox and Rangers. Big time totals here. This is the offense game. White Sox 4.6 run implied total, Rangers 4.9. Michael Kopech and Martin Perez, 13% ownership coming into Kopech at 9,400, 3 coming into Perez at 5,900. Let's just start with Kopech. On paper, probably the right amount of ownership, but I don't like this spot at all.
Yeah, he was like the biggest thing that stood out in my Sims video today, where he was in like 70% of the lineups. But the reason, and it goes back to what we've talked about on the show a lot, when like, if I'm talking about the actual exposures I have, everything works together. And that Sims video had like 35% Guardians 5-mans. And so that's one reason you were seeing so much Kopech there. Yeah. One, Kopech was showing up as under-owned. At the time I did it, we had him projected for 10% ownership with a 19% chance of being top 2. So he was projected to be really under-owned. But then also you had the Guardians showing up really well, and Kopech was an easy way to differentiate. So I think at the very least, yeah, he's probably going a little bit under-owned here based on upside. We already talked about it when we talked about Castillo. This is a really, really tough spot against Texas. But when you look at the other high upside good pitchers on the slate, it's a really tough spot for Ohtani. It's a tough spot for Darvish. Castillo, it's not a good park, but it's a pretty good spot. But, tough spot for Sonny Gray. There's no real ace on this slate that you look at and have no questions at all about their matchup. So there is still merit to getting the Kopech. The strikeout stuff has been there. Especially recently after he seemingly fixed his pitch tipping issues. He's up to nearly a 27% K percentage on the year. Still walks too many guys, gives up power, all of that. And it's a really tough spot. So you're not going to feel good about getting the Kopech, but you are getting a nice, ownership discount. He's somebody where, if you're avoiding Cleveland and going to some of these lower owned stacks, you probably don't need to take that many risks on getting the Kopech. But if you are going to these more popular teams, Cleveland, Chicago in particular, Kopech is a way that you can differentiate, because he's not nearly as good as Luis Castillo. He doesn't project as well as Luis Castillo, but he's certainly capable of beating Luis Castillo in a 1-game sample a relatively high percentage of the time.
Should Martin Perez be getting any more love given Gavin Williams' ownership?
Yes and no. There's no way he's a 10-1 dog against Gavin Williams, but also you're not just playing optimal percentages in MLB because you're never building that lineup. So
maybe you're not
right. Yeah. He's okay if like in an individual lineup, if you're just saying like, look, I have a popular Cleveland team, maybe, well, I guess you're not running it back with the White Sox in this case, but maybe you're running it back with another popular offense like Minnesota or Texas. So then it's like, okay, well, I'll just go to Martin Perez. Hopefully he beats Gavin Williams. I think in those individual lineups where you need a pay down pitcher, but you have popular bats, he makes some sense. But overall, I would expect to be getting to more Williams.
All righty. Which side of this game do you prefer right now? 11% ownership coming into the White Sox, 14 coming into the Rangers. Obviously, the Rangers are facing the better pitcher. Which side do you want to get to more?
The way it looks right now, I think the White Sox. The Rangers offense is obviously better. They are one of the best offenses in baseball this year against right-handed pitching. Specifically, their active roster is tied with the Giants for second with a 121 WRC plus. 190 ISO, only striking out 22.5% of the time. Really, really, really good offense. But the White Sox are considerably cheaper. They have the same implied run total. They're projected for less aggregate ownership, and they have a better matchup against Martin Perez. So I think I would get to the White Sox first, at least with the way ownership looks right now. Perez hasn't been bad this year, but he is giving up some power to righties. 170 expected ISO, 344 expected WOBA, only striking out 16%. The White Sox offense as a whole hasn't been good this year, but Luis Robert's been excellent. He's 4,800 on DraftKings, certainly looks like a really good option. He made it into my article today as well. Andrew Vaughn is cheap and has power. Jimenez is only 4,200. Grandal's cheap. Berger's got tons of power and he's cheap. Clint Frazier's free. It's a really good hitter's park. So I like both offenses, but the way everything looks right now, I think I'd probably get to the White Sox side first.
I've got a little bit of both, but I've got more of the Rangers side right now, and I am lighter on Kopech. Do I like that? Not a ton, but I'm getting to a lot of Corey Seager right now, not just in stacks, but as like a one-off shortstop, which I'm fine with in this lefty-righty spot. Big time played up power in Chicago as well, 112 park factor, 2 lefties. So I like the Texas side, but I'm also getting, I have 16 5-man White Sox stack. So I'm just getting to this game with a decent chunk of offense, sort of like the public is. I want to have enough of it. I might dial that back a little bit as we get closer and, as we see where ownership ends up laying. But for me at this point, the more likely scenario is that I'm going to need the Mariners to be the top stack.
Yeah,
you trying to fight Dinwiddie? You trying to fight Dinshitty?
No, Neil earlier said he was trying to remember what athlete I said that I could take in a fight. And then he just said he remembered it was Dinwiddie. And I said, I never said that. I just said he's a beta.
Rank the game, which I actually think is an interesting discussion point.
Yeah. I think it's White Sox, Rangers, Kopech, Perez.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Angels and Dodgers. We're up to 172 likes. Keep hitting that like button, folks. Let's get up over 200. We're going to chase down Zion. Shohei Ohtani going for the Angels, 4.6 run implied total. Michael Grove going for the Dodgers, 4.2. 33% ownership coming into Ohtani, 9% ownership coming into Michael Grove. How are you handling Ohtani today? And I guess in the only way that we can, compare him to Castillo?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about before, I think he comes in behind Castillo in terms of he's $1,000 more expensive. The matchup against the Dodgers sucks. The thing that I think is interesting is there's so much value in bats on this slate. How much does that $1,000 actually end up mattering? And Shohei Ohtani does have better strikeout stuff. The other thing, though, is that we actually have Castillo projected essentially the same as Ohtani, but slightly ahead. So it's not even like it's a spot where you're saying, Ohtani definitely is better than Castillo if you can find the salary. But it is interesting. He's getting quite a bit less ownership. He's still popular at 33%, but you have Castillo pushing 50%. So there is a pretty nice ownership discount there. We have them almost identical in top 2 pitcher percentage. I certainly think it's reasonable considering, how cheap the Guardians are, how cheap the White Sox are, how cheap the Twins are, how cheap the A's are. There's probably going to be a lot of opportunities where you could just say, okay, I can build the same lineup with Castillo or Ohtani. They project the same. Let me just take the lower owned Ohtani.
Yeah, I think the way that it's set up right now in a large field contest, I like the idea of just like flip-flopping their ownership.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I don't want to sacrifice things to get to Ohtani over Castillo, but I think there's going to be so many opportunities where you don't have to that I wouldn't hate it at all if I just ended up, 45, 50% Ohtani and then like 30, 35% Castillo.
Basically exactly where I am right now. So cool. Can't wait for both of us to get there. And then the best play today is Sonny Gray, Paul Blackburn.
Right.
Oh man. Okay, so we're on the same page with Ohtani. Any interest in Michael Grove? A decent strikeout spot.
Yeah, decent strikeout spot. Not a good park. I think he's just another pivot to Gavin Williams, where Gavin Williams is the top option in that price range, but Grove does have an almost identical top 2 value percentage, 12% chance of being a top 2 scoring pitcher compared to 16% for Williams. So, you're talking about like Williams being 1.25x ish as likely to be a top 2 scoring pitcher, but getting 4 times the ownership. The math works out where you can turn some Gavin Williams into Michael Grove profitably, but Williams is still the one that projects better. And if you've already taken care of ownership in that lineup, you're probably going to just go to Williams.
Nice to see that you are aware that this isn't the best park. I know we've had some discussions on park factors, and I've been teaching you as much as I can as of late, but we're trying to get there as much as we can.
Used to be a good park.
Yeah. Before we get to the bat side of this one, I have to ask you a random question.
I feel like you don't have to at all, but you're
going no, but I do because it's in my mind now and I can't help myself. It's not weird or anything. Okay. It's just it's coming out of nowhere for sure. But I texted this to one of my best friends yesterday. Assume it's like a completely random 2A school or 3A school in basketball. Okay. And it's a school where, like, you know, once every 10 years or so, they probably could like make the state playoffs with their team. It's never a hotbed. They're just like every once in a while, they're decent. If Michael Jordan joined that team right now, would they win the state title?
In basketball? Wait, like 80 or like 60-year-old Michael
Current
Jordan?
day Michael Jordan.
It depends on who else is in their conference. I mean,
sure.
if they are a team that is occasionally good,
the state matters,
right? Yeah, like if they're occasionally good, but they're winning the state has to go through like one of these actual hotbeds, then no, probably not.
So I sent this to my buddy that I went to high school with. So we used our high school as our example, and he was just like 1,000% yes. And like one of our best friends,
school, absolutely,
yeah. But like now, this is Pennsylvania, but at the same time, like we know some of the teams that have made it in the past. Pennsylvania basketball is different in that a lot of the high-level Philly schools aren't in the state playoff system.
Right.
So you're dodging the real talent.
Right. In Maryland, like my high school was 4A, but most of the good basketball players go to private school.
Yeah. Like a lot of snap nose in chat. We got to remember, he's going to score on basically every position. He is infinitely stronger than every single person that's going to step foot on that floor. He's not going to miss. He's going to be the best big man at his, like, he's going to body everybody. The only time you run into any issues is if you play another team that has other D1 recruits and they just have the volume to beat it.
Right. That's the whole thing is, do your D1 recruits play in the same league as the high school that we're talking about? In my case, no, they're all playing private schools in the DC area.
Like, the mentality alone, like he's going to drop a shit ton of points. And obviously the one caveat here is like, we're just ignoring injury for right now. Like we don't have to like make sure that he makes it through 2 months. But I thought it was really, I saw Jordan, like he was playing like a pickup game with Tom Brady on like some beach court somewhere with a bunch of other dudes. And he hit some like little 10-foot fadeaway. And I was like, I wonder how bad he would like own just random kids.
And even thinking about for my high school, it probably still depends on the year. Like Delonte West played in our conference. Jeff Green played in our conference.
See, like I don't think West matters, but I think Jeff Green matters more in those scenarios. It's the bigger dudes that are playing high school that change it. Like the guards probably don't matter as much in those scenarios. Defense, he's like a roaming center in the 2-3 zone type stuff. I thought it would be a fantastic thing to see if you just had Jordan. Like, do you remember the video of that tiny ass white kid guarding Zion?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine that dude being like strapped to Jordan for a couple of possessions? It'd be great. Hey, Josh, heard you went to Frankfurt High School. Don't know what that is. Never heard of it. Didn't go to Frankfurt High School. Never even heard of a Frankfurt High School. You ready to close this slate out?
Yeah.
All right, final game, Giants and Padres, 3.9 run implied total for the Giants, 4.2 for the Pods. Sean Manaea, probably the long man for the Giants. We could have that conversation. Yu Darvish definitely going for San Diego. I got to start on the San Diego side. I get a lot of Darvish just in general. 8,700 in San Francisco. He's 28% owned. I think Darvish is the best pitcher on the slate if you combine everything because of that price tag. I have an absolute shit ton. That normally goes poorly. It didn't go poorly this morning. I'm hoping I can keep that momentum going.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's just such an easy spot to get to. The negative is that the Giants are still a really good offense. 121 WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year, the same as Texas. Better than every team other than the Rays. But they do strike out. They do have a 24% K percentage. You have a park that limits power. You have Darvish, who's just still a very good pitcher, striking out about 26% of hitters. 3.78 xFIP, and you're just getting that salary discount where, he's 1,400 less than Castillo. He's 2,400 less than Ohtani. He's 1,000 less than Gray. He's less than Kopech against the Rangers. It just, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being my highest owned pitcher, just because there's not a lot to do in that price range. Whereas like at the top, you're going to be wanting to get some Ohtani and some Castillo, maybe some Gray. When you go cheaper, you're going to be wanting to get some Whitlock, some Williams, maybe mix in some Grove. So it's just there's nothing really around Darvish.
I'm surprised he's not getting more ownership. Maybe it'll tweak up a little bit later, but like I love the park and I love the range where there's just like you just said, there's nobody around him. So yeah, Team Yu Darvish today. He will be my most exposed pitcher. I am not upset about it at all. Is he the third highest projected pitcher to you?
Yes.
Okay. I have him second, but it's marginal. Like, do you think he's like, how different do you think he is to Ohtani and Castillo today?
In terms of projection, I think he's decently behind them, but
okay.
I think that from a value standpoint, he probably looks the same, if not a little bit better.
Sure. Manaea?
I don't hate it. He's another pivot away from Gavin Williams. Yeah. But like with it being a 6-game slate, at least you can make the case for getting there. He's only 5,400. He does have good strikeout stuff. He also gives up a lot of power, and it's not like it's a great matchup against the Padres. But let's say he's going to be. We don't have him in ownership projections. I don't think
we do. He's 8%.
Okay. Okay, cool. We didn't last time I looked. So yeah, like call it 8%. He's not a 4-1, 5-1 dog against Gavin Williams. I would still rather get to Williams, but I don't mind it as a pivot.
Man, that's a sobering tweet. Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis netting a total of 1 first-rounder.
Yep.
Oh, that's hard to read if you're a Wizards fan. Shit. Oh, man. Yikes. Can we get to bats here? 11th in ownership for the Giants, 6th for the Padres. They do have a little bit on the top end, which is obvious. Like Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Bogarts, those guys should be owned every single slate, basically. Unless you're getting like ultra high-end righty pitching on the opposite side in this park in particular. I don't see how they're just always going to have a little bit of ownership coming in. Do you like getting to either team?
I don't hate it in tournaments just because of the talent. I prefer the Padres side because Manaea is not as good as Darvish. He does give up power. You do have tons of good power hitters in this lineup. But, like I said before, the Giants do have a very good offense. They certainly can do some damage against Darvish, who's going to be popular. So as far as relatively low-owned the tournament stacks, I don't mind it because there is upside. But San Francisco pulling 5% ownership, Padres pulling like 9, both pretty much correctly owned. They look pretty neutral to me.
Yeah, I just don't have much to say here. This is very clearly Darvish and then everything else. But I would want the Padres too pretty clearly for me because I'll always take their chance at upside. Anything else you want to touch on for this game?
No, I'm really confused how the 30th overall pick is better than Mikal Bridges, much less Mikal Bridges and picks.
Dude, I can't. That's like a ridiculous take. They basically got all of their draft picks back.
Right. And they also got potentially a star.
If they traded Mikal Bridges right now, they would get all of the picks they could possibly want from any real team that has them.
If we get a Woj bomb that Mikal Bridges has been moved, it's not going to be for the last pick of the first round.
No, it is not. No, it is not. All right. Favorite stacks?
White Sox. I'll say Cleveland, but again, I wouldn't be upset at all if that ends up being the team that I fade. White Sox, I really like the upside for Minnesota. Rangers. I like the Angels too. I don't know if we really specifically mentioned it, but I like the Angels. The problem is just that you can't get Ohtani.
Right. Yeah, they're just a harder team to try to roster. Do I like getting there a little bit? Yeah. But leaving him out is it really just softens the blow there. You lost 3 Hall of Famers. That's how we were going to describe those guys right now?
Man, the Wizards are going to get blasted when they get nothing for Chris Paul.
Yeah. They're not active Hall of Famers. I mean, they got a truckload of shit from Phoenix for Kevin Durant. What more? You got Cam Johnson, obviously an exceptional role player / like fourth or fifth starter. Mikal Bridges is better than anybody ever thought. They got all of the Phoenix Suns draft capital moving forward. Ben Simmons is there.
Yeah, and I mean obviously Simmons didn't work out, but like getting Ben Simmons isn't nothing.
They won that trade at that time. Like we could look back at it with revisionist history all we want, but like acquiring Ben Simmons when they did was the right move.
Right, when we thought it was just him faking an injury to get out of Philly.
Right. Yeah, like we can't look at it like that. Favorite pitchers?
Darvish, Castillo. I'll throw in a tournament one. I like Whitlock. I know I mentioned the Twins as the top stack. We talked about it when we went through that game. I like the Twin side of it. I like Whitlock. I think both sides are going on their own.
You've got a new Sims video out, right?
Yeah.
That comes out like early afternoon each day?
Yeah.
What you doing on that?
Just running through a sim of the slate. So early look at the slate, put in 1 to 2,000 lineups, run the sims, see what it's giving me. I alluded to it a couple times on this show. Today it was spitting out a lot of Cleveland stacks, and as a result, you were also getting a lot of Michael Kopech. But like looking individually at those Cleveland stacks, it was Cleveland with the Yankees, Cleveland with Dodgers, stuff like that. So yeah, just kind of obviously it changes between then and lock. We get lineups, ownership changes, all that, but gives you an early look at the slate, and you can also pull some stuff away from the way the lineups are being constructed, I think.
Awesome, guys. You can check that out Monday through Friday from Adam. We've got plenty of other content on the Stochastic channel, on the Odd Shopper channel. Check all of our individual Twitters, whether that's me, Adam, Laffy, Neil, Greg, Ben, Eric. If I'm missing anybody, my apologies. I'm just trying to rip through this all off the top of my head. We're getting content out on Twitter now as well, and I don't want you guys to miss that. So make sure you're following us. Make a list of all the Stochastic people, guys. Subscribe to it. You don't want to let any of that stuff slip through the cracks. You're getting plenty of... Even if you don't want to spend a dime for a single thing that is offered at Stochastic or at Odd Shopper, the amount of free content that we provide to you guys, you got to really hate us to not want to try to soak some of that up if you are playing these types of things or sports betting, whatever it is. You're getting a lot of goods for precisely $0. So at least do us the favor, hang out with us, follow us on Twitter, and good luck tonight, everybody. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. Thanks to Jordan for producing. Thanks to Sleeper for being the sponsor. I'm running out of ways to say words, so I'm out of here. Peace. Yeah, Larry, you can follow him, but he's probably going to block you.
Yo, it's a new week, which means another edition of inducting you fine people into the Hall of Fame right here on the Stochastic YouTube channel, and giving out some free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum to everyone who qualified. $120 value, and all you got to do to get involved, go to stochastic.com/avatar, download the profile picture, use it wherever it is you play, and if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, tweet your wins to us at StochasticHOF. Get a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And let's get into it for the week. First up, Jordan Frank. Sad that the NBA season is ending, but not a bad way to close it out. $75,000 to Jordan Frank in the NBA Showdown, final game of the season. Shout out to Jordan. Huge win there. And how about Adam Scherer back on the board? Ship My Money DFS. Yeah, you've heard of him. Second place in the night GPP 2 nights ago, and first place last night. Still got a long way to climb back, but got to celebrate him when you can. $27,500 for our boy Ship My Money. And Timothy, we'll just go by Timmy, as a matter of fact. I'm not even going to try. I don't care for the free month, and I would change the logo, but I like to have something different so I can see where I'm at quickly. But these Stochastic tools off the hook, and the new Sims tool, don't even get me started. 3 days using, 2 nice wins with the new MLB Sim tool. 2,500, 4,000 there in the 4-seamer and the mini max. Congrats, Timmy. Nice wins. And Tall Tale, been a great season. Thanks to Stochastic and thanks to all the Discord brethren. $4,000 for Tall Tale. And Golden Child, FanDuel Fantasy takedown 1,600 to A. Baker 82 to close out the NBA season, but it keeps going. We got more. Dave Oliver, best tools and advice, hands down. Thank you, guys. 5,000 in the Friday MLB rally, followed up by BST. BST Rans? BS Trans? $2,000. Thanks to everybody at Stochastic. Second place in the four-seamer. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, fella. And Katzler, big night in the NBA streets for me last night. Thanks to all the advice and content. Nice. Few big wins there for Katzler. And a few more. Keith, PJ Showdown, 5K short game, $150 to Keith. And in the guard, not a full banker Hall of Fame worthy. We'll throw you up here anyway, brother. But all made possible by the PGA lineup generator. Yeah, you guys know, less than $4.50 for the first week. And we wrap it up with our friend Johnny Footballs. Hopefully this qualifies. Field size was 9,500. Love the content. The banter prior and during each show is just as, if not more valuable. Congrats, Johnny, and everyone else. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. You've now been inducted, and welcome back if you've been here before. Remember, rep the avatar, stochastic.com/avatar. Wherever it is you play, tweet us your wins at Stochastic HOF. Get up here, get the free month, and get inducted, and we'll see you back here for the next one.
Not like you want to be here anyway.
What is going on, everybody? It is time for Stochastic MLB Live Before Lock. Eric has been recovered from the submarine, so he is here to join us.
It's so dumb.
Jordan, who does a million of these shows. Here's what Jordan Klein says to us before we start the show. Hey guys, what do we usually do before we start? What do I say to you? As if it matters. Like, do you want to know what Jordan usually says to us? Are you guys ready?
5 on the hands.
Yes. Are you guys ready? Yes, we're ready. All right, I'm not ready. Are you guys ready now? Yes, we're ready. I'm still not ready. That's usually what goes on before the show starts, Jordan. That's usually the interlude to the show. We lead up, you ask us if we're ready a couple times, then eventually we are ready. You do the countdown that's off camera and we can't really see it, and then I just start talking at some point. So we covered all the bases today. Eric, how are you doing?
Yeah, tell me you're checked out of your job without telling me you're checked out of your job, Jordan Klein. I'm doing great. This submarine thing is really stupid. I don't know why you keep bringing it up to me as if I were there. Pretty freaky stuff. I think it's very inappropriate that you would go after people on Twitter with completely non-ironic Twitter handles and call them out in such ridiculous fashion. I think you need to really check yourself, Greg, before you wreck yourself.
Is that Eric Lindquist that ironic of a handle?
It's not what I'm talking about.
Like, I understand that it's like, who would willingly be this person? But I mean, it is what your Twitter handle is.
Such a weird person.
We're sponsored by Sleeper today. And if you guys are signing up at Sleeper for the first time, you use our link, you get up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit, and also access to 100x payouts, which you don't find on other pick'em sites, but you're going to find it over at Sleeper. They're doing more than just fantasy football over there. They've got pick'em stuff over there for baseball. They've got everything you could think of. They've got triples, home runs, strikeouts, the gamut. They've got it all on there. You could mix them all together, get up to a 100x parlay. And then, like I said, also, you sign up using our link, you are going to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100 when you go ahead and make that first deposit over there. Now, Eric, we've got a baseball slate today, and not a massive one. Actually, my favorite size baseball slate is like right in this range. Whenever we're getting like 6 to 8 or 9 games, that's kind of the sweet spot for me. That's where I've generally found that I've been the most profitable in the long run. Before we start talking about some of the pitchers here, do you have any overarching thoughts about this slate, or just thoughts coming into it?
Yeah, we've got some interesting chalk when it comes to pitching today. We'll talk through and comb through it. I'm very curious where you're going to land, because I think projections in general don't do a great job of encapsulating what you're looking at with new talent. It basically is almost always working against him. It's almost saying, Gavin Williams, you can't possibly be good immediately. And we always hold them down until we're proven wrong the other direction. Now, you can't give everybody the boost immediately, but we did it with Spencer Strider. I know last year, you, me, everybody here was basically like, you need to fire up Spencer Strider in bulk immediately. I kind of feel that way about Gavin Williams, maybe not to the fullest extent. We'll talk about his K rate and such, but it's such a wild pitcher to have there at 5,700 on the DraftKings slate. I think that's really like what you're planning to do with pitcher is such a big part of this slate, whereas sometimes I feel like it's so easy to look at leverage and, hey, we have 15 games. There are ways to get away from Garrett Cole. Of course, Garrett Cole goes nuts yesterday anyway, but I think pitching is very fun today.
Yeah, and one thing which will lead more when we're talking about Gavin Williams and the pitchers in general in a second here is I'm looking at our projected ownership. The field is getting there. The field is expecting him to be a stud right out of the gates, because he's projected for right around 30% ownership on DraftKings. On FanDuel, we've got him projected for 6% ownership, but FanDuel and DraftKings are going to be inherently different when it comes to Gavin Williams, because we need to roster 2 pitchers on DraftKings. But in addition to that, he is 5,700 on DK, 8,300, a little bit more of an appropriate price tag on FanDuel. So we'll hit on more of that in a second. But first, we are opening up the show, as per usual, with a super chat from Ace of Spade, who wants to know who we're getting to for DK tiers. So I'm going to answer that. And then also, if anybody is in our Discord and has questions for us, at me, so we can answer those over the course of the show. Looking at DK tiers, Eric, do you want to pull up Josh's DK tiers projections, or do you have your own you want to look at here? How would you like to do this?
Yeah, he knows Josh was like just on the show, right? Could have super chatted and like asked Josh about Josh's
He doesn't.
stuff.
Ace of Spade likes to ask me every day.
Oh, okay.
And I'm okay with that. He's my friend. Look at Eric. Eric getting testy with the super chats again. Like, oh, does it have to be this show? You couldn't have asked on the last show?
Oh my God, you are so fucking annoying today.
You could pull up Josh's. I could just
I already have it. I have it. I'm ready.
All right.
Let's go. Wander Franco, number 1.
So to me, it's really close in tier 1 between Randy Arozarena and Wander Franco. I'm getting to a little bit more.
You understand
of
this is from morning. This game already happened.
Which is, oh, you know what? We've got, I have lineups run here for both the early and the late slates. Let me change it and look at my late slate lineups, where tier 1, I'm getting to Corey Seager the most. And there's a lot of studs here. Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Fernando Tatis, Mookie Betts. And I'm getting the most to Corey Seager. Seager looks like one of the players who's really, really benefited this year from the change in the shift rules. I know it's not like the biggest of sample sizes because he's been injured a little bit at times this year, which kind of comes with the course for Corey Seager. But when he's been out on the field, he's been as valuable as any player in baseball this year. And I'm not saying that in like some sort of like crazy hyperbolic. He's a 195 WRC plus playing shortstop. Like that's crazy kind of output. So even though he's only played 42 games, he's actually produced 2.4 wins above replacements. Like he's on pace for right around a 10-win season. Really good start to the year for Corey Seager, particularly when he's been healthy. That's my guy in tier 1. Eric, who do you like in tier 1?
I mean, the shift rules have like exclusively benefited lefties, right? Like that's kind of what's bearing out in the numbers, is that they're the ones who were being punished for being left-handed and pulling a ball, being your primary, when you're mapping it out, they're going to be the ones who are pulling a baseball into the shift. And it's a very short throw then from between first and second to first base. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I mean, Joey Gallo pre-injury was just destroying the universe. Now he's fallen off the planet. Just doesn't really look right at the plate at times. And Seager, he's looked right every single time that he's been up there when healthy. So, which is rare because he always seems to get hurt at some point in a season, but definitely there for Corey Seager as well.
Yeah, so Corey Seager is going to be the guy for me in tier 1. And let's see what I'm getting to in tier 2. So tier 2 for me, we've got Mike Trout, we got Freddie Freeman, we've got Devers. I'm going with Mike Trout. He's the guy I'm getting the most exposure to in tier 2. This one's fairly flat for me. Freddie Freeman and Devers are not too far behind, but Mike Trout, that's my number 1 guy there.
Yeah, the Angels are my highest on stack today, so it's going to be an Angels answer for everything.
Interesting. We'll talk about more on them in a little bit. I always find it hard to get to a lot of the Angels when Ohtani's pitching, just because you don't have access to the Ohtani bat, but we'll get to more of that in a little bit. Tier 3 for me is Adolis Garcia. He also correlates nicely with Marcus Semien in tier 1, tier 3. What do you got?
I like Adolis Garcia too.
Tier 4, Jose Ramirez. We've got a super chalky Guardian stack today, but Jose Ramirez available in tier 4. He is somebody who I like getting to there. Also, there isn't another player I could really correlate with the other stacks we've talked about here so far. So tier 4 is Jose Ramirez for me.
Same.
All right, tier 5. So tier 5, I am going to be going with Josh Jung here. Another tier that's pretty flat for me, Correa, Verdugo, Jung, Brandon Drury, all players that are pretty close. But since I already went with Corey Seager in tier 1 and then tier 3, Adolis Garcia, give me Josh Jung in tier 5 for the extra correlation.
Don't hate that whatsoever. I think this is a pretty good tier to be getting different. I'm going to go to Drury.
Any thoughts on Josh Jung also, or just,
I guess he's the chalk of the position. He's the best play at the position, but I'm going to go towards my stack. I'm just going to be stacking up a lot of these Angels.
Tier 5, I could do more Ranger stacks here and I could get to Nate Lowe. So Nate Lowe allows me to then get to a 4-man Ranger stack in tiers here. You could also go with Jonah Heim. Any chance you're interested in Taylor Ward in tier 6, or is it somebody else you're looking at?
Taylor Ward.
All right. So there we got Eric is going with an Angel stack. So we were able to get Taylor Ward in tier 6, Brandon Drury in tier 5, and then it was Mike Trout in tier 2. So 3-man Angel stacks in there as well. So good day to get back to the stacking in tiers. I believe it was yesterday when we were doing this on a big slate. There just wasn't a way to really correlate the players. We can do it a little bit more so today. Now let's go ahead and start talking about some of the pitchers. And, we usually start by talking about the expensive pitchers, but I think this is a pretty good slate to just start by talking about Gavin Williams, $5,700 on DraftKings. And we'll talk about him in DraftKings and FanDuel separately because the price points are so different. I think it warrants separate conversations. $5,700. He's the second cheapest pitcher on the entire DK slate. Only Michael Grove is cheaper, and he's not even starting. He's going to be like, long reliever after an opener comes in. What are you going to be doing with Gavin Williams, who is expected to be really popular on DraftKings for his first big league start?
I'm going to play 100% of him on DraftKings today. Gavin Williams going up against Oakland is probably the best spot. You could just get dropped out and land for your first big league start. 25.7% K rate against right-handed pitching do the Oakland Athletics have. Just an 86 WRC plus. They did find their way to 6 lefties. It just so happens that those 6 lefties are terrible. And overall, outside of getting to, like, I have a little bit of Ryan Noda in tournaments, getting to them. I just have no interest trying to target him. I think what's happening is people just don't even react to the fact that he's 5,700. The fact that, his top 2 value percentage is 35.2%. Michael Grove has a higher top 2 value percentage, which is a little bit wild to me. And I think I'm going to be targeting that one, considering I'm going to get to some Michael Grove too, and just stack up and have all of the bats on the entire slate, get to the Tatises and the Sotos of the world. But I definitely think Gavin Williams, 6'5", 250, fastball primary pitch, tons of velocity, had some ridiculous numbers at Columbus, 1.09 whip. The K rate is through the moon, 33.3% at AAA, and 12 total starts across the minors this season. I'm in love with the repertoire. I think this is probably the best prospect who is sitting underneath the big league level as of yesterday. And so I'm excited to watch him make his debut.
Yeah, so I'm running my lineups through our Sims one more time with some updated lineups, but the Oakland A's were actually my most rostered stack that I was getting to in the first run that I did. So I'm probably going to be on the opposite side of this. The biggest thing is just Gavin Williams is expected to be super popular today. And particularly in some of the smaller field, higher dollar stuff, I think that Gavin Williams could be like 40, 50% owned in some of those contests. And it's just hard to know what you're going to be getting out of him. His minor league numbers this year, there are a lot of red flags in them. He does have a 2.93 ERA, but he has a 4.11 FIP, a 3.95 xFIP, and he's walking everybody. He has an 11.5% walk rate in the minor leagues. So he's walking 4.11 hitters per 9 innings. If you look at the projections for Steamer and Depth Chart for the season, they don't have him projected all that favorably right now. They don't have his strikeout stuff translating particularly well. Depth Chart has him projected for a 4.65 ERA this year, Steamer to 4.28. So I think there's a lot of value on him for sure at his price point. I think he's a strong consideration in cash games, but I also have to rely on, just what a lot of our data is, and then just what I'm getting to in the simulations, which is just a ton of Oakland A's stacks. And if I'm playing a lot of Oakland A's, it doesn't mean I'm outright fading Williams, but I do end up coming in underweight to the field to him. And I could definitely make a case for it just based on some of his minor league numbers. And the fact that you have a pitcher who's young, he's making his debut. There's a wide range of outcomes. Just give me where there's less ownership in the situation, but I totally understand getting to him.
Yeah, I'm trying to find Spencer Strider's projections by Zips coming into last year, because it was also equally as egregious. I could not have disagreed with it more. I thought it was pretty pathetic, and therefore I'm just going to be on the opposite side of it, because it seems as though whenever you get these rookies, it's better to be safe than sorry when it comes to some of the projection sites. And if you're pulling from FanGraphs, if you're pulling from Zip, Steamer, The Bat, wherever you want to be pulling from, there are very few, if any, examples of a pitcher being told that they were going to be a standout coming into the bigs. Now, this has more to do with the spot for me, where it feels like a pitcher like this, where there is going to be high variance. I think you're looking at a spot where I'm just comfortable knowing that Ks are going to be there. And at 5,700, if I know the strikeouts are going to be there, he can walk 4 or 5 guys here. He can give up 2 earned. But I think it's pretty predictable looking at this Oakland Athletics lineup up and down. There's not a whole lot of resistance from the left side that could be the side that I think could actually create some run, actually have some run creation there. These guys are not major league hitters. It's a flat out quad A team. Seth Brown, 431 expected slugging, 218 expected batting average. This guy also carried a pretty low expected batting average at every single level of minor league ball. So this is just kind of like a push-pull situation. I get why you're getting to Oakland. There are a lot of ways in my process I would get there, but the difference is that he's 5,700 on this slate. And so I think you're better off kind of picking a side, and you've picked the different side from me.
Yeah, and let me see. What is the actual, because I just had my lineups just finished being run. Let me see what the ownership is that I got to him, because I don't think I'm like outright fading him. So here's what I actually have. In terms of Williams, I have 24% of him when he's projected now for over 30% ownership. So like, I'm not getting that much different of Williams to the field. It's just I'm playing the other side a good amount as well.
Yeah.
So I have Williams is my third most rostered pitcher. The only pitchers I'm getting more exposure to are Shohei Ohtani and then Michael Kopech, who I like as a contrarian pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And then the A's just happen to be my most rostered stack. So I'm not all that different actually on Williams in the field. It's just stacking against him also.
I'm different because I have no lineups without him.
There we go. Different ways to skin a cat, as the kids say.
But here's the thing. That's part of DFS is also finding a lane. And I think that's something you can do with the Sims tool too. Like there's ways that we are going to bring our biases and maybe screw with the data in a really, really bad way. But I also think that I understand where the data is coming from for why it's just so hard to do it with prospects. I totally understand where we're coming from, but it's almost like we give them no leeway to be good immediately a lot of the time. Just if you're pulling directly from projection sites, if you're pulling directly from other places, because it is very difficult to put your neck out there and say he's going to be an elite pitcher. But by all intents and purposes, the fastball is elite right now. And I think with that as a primary pitch, so long as his location's there, I see no way that he doesn't K at least 5. The over of strikeouts, bet that already. Bet Cleveland -1.5. I mean, I'm just all over this spot, except for with Cleveland bats.
Yeah, by the way, the Strider projections from last year are really weird because he was expected to be a reliever to open up the year.
Exactly. And so if you look at Zips this year too, for Grant Williams, they expect him to be a reliever in 3 years, basically saying he's not good enough to be able to get to that standpoint. I have him for a 56 game sample size where his ERA and xFIP drop below 3, or rate at 3, I guess, in ERA as I'm looking at it now. They basically are saying he's going to have to transfer over to it. Part of it is because Grant Williams does have a pretty lingered injury history, even though he's a young arm. He was hurt. I believe he already had Tommy John surgery as well, but don't quote me on that. I saw some blurb about that from last week when they were talking about prospective starters coming up, just watching the reports pop up on like FanGraphs and things of that nature. So just be on the lookout. I just think he's really, really talented, and you want to be early to the party before he's 9K and getting played at 33%.
And now let's talk about him for FanDuel, because FanDuel, I think, is just so inherently different than the DraftKings slate, because DK, a lot of us do with he's super cheap. He's a really obvious cash game play on DraftKings as well, when you could just save all of the money in the world. But on FanDuel, how do you view him at $8,300, which is a much more reasonable price point? And also, he's not picking up ownership in the same way on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's north of 30%. On FanDuel, only 6% at the elevated price point.
Yeah, I don't think I would have the cojones to just lock button him on FanDuel at that kind of a number. There is a major opportunity cost, because now you're talking about giving up some bats, at least to a certain extent over there. Whereas on DraftKings, he allows you to get every bat. And then you have to compare him to Castillo and Ohtani, who are undoubtedly proven entities. And that's where on a 1-pitcher site, it's more difficult. But on a 2-pitcher site, I can mix and match these characters. And there's such a salary discrepancy. I mean, it's a salary game too. And we have to keep that in mind. So for FanDuel purposes, I do not think that I would be getting to a crazy. Actually, no, I'm going to build some extra lineups over on FanDuel, because right now I just built out 3. He was in one of the 3. I'm going to build out a full 150 here for today. There's a couple tournaments that aren't filled yet. We'll see. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, so I came in, I'm only playing on DraftKings today, but I build lineups on FanDuel and DraftKings just because it makes it easier for me to talk about them. And I came in overweight to the field on Gavin Williams on FanDuel and didn't really get to a whole lot of A's there. Once again, so much of the way I approach MLB DFS is based on ownership.
Yep. And
there are times too, like I honestly don't even care that much about what I think is going to happen. Kind of like, I play shitty. I'm sure people have picked up on this. I'm sure a lot recently. I play a lot of really shitty teams in single entry for DraftKings purposes, because of the way that earlier today, did you play the early slate, Eric?
I did.
Who would you guess I played in single entry?
Just look back at it. You played Colorado. Well, not Colorado. That was a decent spot. You probably played Kansas City.
No, I played Colorado against.
I got it right the first time. Yeah. But Colorado's in Cincinnati, and I think there are at least some cases to be made about Mr. Abbott. There's some illusions going on with him. I still backed Cincinnati. Got the Jake Fraley home run, which is just like such a luck box thing in that 8th inning. But I am still, Colorado was in the best hitting ballpark you could run into for DraftKings purposes because of solo home runs.
Yeah, so it worked out well because Grichuk homered, Montero homered, and there was one other. They had three homers, so it ended up working out. And then also part of it too is Abbott was 50%.
Doyle led off the game with a home run. That was who it was.
Yeah, that was it. But then Abbott was close to 50% owned in single entry. So that's just generally how I end up playing a lot of these slates. And I've had this has been a really strong start to the year for me for baseball. A lot of it has to do because I have access to the Sims tool now, but it's something that I've really gravitated towards, is playing some of these shitty offenses that are going to be 0% owned. Like the Rockies earlier, all the hitters were 1 to 3% owned in single entry. When I was playing the Tigers last week, the entire offense is like 0.4% owned. And yeah, it's been a profitable strategy for me this year for sure. So I'm going to be sticking with it. Anyway, if we look at some of the other pitchers on the slate today, getting past the Gavin Williams conversation, if we're going to be talking about the established good pitchers that we have going today, Shohei Ohtani is projected for 32% ownership. Luis Castillo on the road in New York projected for 46% ownership, Eric, and then Yu Darvish at 32% ownership. So these guys are all owned around Gavin Williams, but they're in way different price ranges. If you're paying up for one of these pitchers, Ohtani, Castillo, Darvish, who'd be your choice?
I'm kind of torn. And I mean, we're going to talk through a couple of these pieces. I think Ohtani's going to end up the lowest owned. I'm not sure. It's just such a hard spot where we've seen like 10, 15% differences based on what the matchup is. I think Luis Castillo, pretty straightforward against the Yankees, looks good. I like just about everything about him when it comes to getting out of Seattle, which is the best pitcher's park you could run into. Yankee Stadium, not exactly ideal, but he gets a lineup that just looks god awful. Jake Bauers, Willie Calhoun batting third, Billy McKinney, who's just terrible. And I think everything that's happened with him at the beginning of the season is a mirage. The fact he went yard yesterday is pretty egregious. Anthony Volpe there at the bottom. I just look at this Yankees lineup as pretty atrocious as well. And then there's also a case to be made for trying to force in these mid-range guys with Kopech at 9,400, sitting below them a tier. I think it probably goes Ohtani 1 for me simply because of the Dodgers matchup. People might be a little bit nervous with it. And it's a very freaky spot. The Dodgers murder everybody. They've got a 110 WRC plus against righties for the season, 193 ISO, and Freddie Freeman exists. But they also have enough strikeouts, 22.7%, where it's not nothing. That's pretty middle of the road in MLB. I think I'm going to go with Ohtani. What are you planning on doing?
Yeah, so if I'm playing so there's going to be two parts to this. If I'm playing one of the popular guys, the one I'm getting the most of is Ohtani. And that's been pretty frequently for me. If he's just, but we've seen also, he's had a drop off in terms of his pitching performance this year. It hasn't been quite as good, but there's still that upside there. And there's reason to be concerned about these other guys as well, right? Like Yu Darvish is fairly old at this point in his career. And then also is somebody who has seen a little bit of diminished strikeout ability in the last couple of years. Luis Castillo, to me, the biggest concern is just the ownership and the park to a smaller extent too. He's on the road in New York, but nearly 50% owned. That's definitely something that gives me a little bit of pause. And then, like I said, with Yu Darvish, the strikeout rate's been down the last couple of years. He's a 4.74 ERA, a 4 expected ERA. So all that being considered, give me Ohtani over Luis Castillo because of the difference in ownership. He's going to be considerably less popular. And then give me Ohtani over Yu Darvish just because I think Ohtani is better than Yu Darvish by a pretty big amount. The obvious concern, though, is going to be the terrible matchup for Ohtani against the Dodgers. But when Ohtani's game is on, it doesn't really matter who the offenses are. He's shutting people down when he's on. We just haven't seen him on as much this year.
That's where I'm at with this. And we have it about 4% difference, and that's enough for it to be variable. I do think Darvish ends up more popular. I don't know why. I get that feeling that we're going to get to the flip. And it's just like that inherent feeling you get from doing this every single day where I'm just going to be playing a lot more Ohtani. I think Luis Castillo, there's no doubt he's in a fantastic spot. The ownership concerns exactly kind of what we're running into as well. But I think you had also said Michael Kopech, somebody you're getting to. I am way over the field on Michael Kopech right now going up against Texas. Doesn't feel good. Everything I just said about the Dodgers applies maybe even a little bit more to Texas. Corey Seager's murdering baseballs. They have a 118 WRC plus against righties on the season and a 186 ISO. But Kopech, we haven't seen this kind of performance from him in like recent starts since he was a reliever. Like this is starting to get back to some of the K rates. Now, the 6 walks last time out against Seattle was a little bit concerning, but I went back and saw some of those missed strike calls. He was getting squeezed pretty hard against Seattle in that spot. 6, 9, 10 Ks. This is the best his strikeout stuff has looked. Over the course of the last month since he was a reliever. I think there's at least that same kind of upside going up against Texas as what there is for Ohtani going up against the Dodgers, despite the scary matchup.
Gio Urshela likely to miss the rest of the year with a pelvis injury.
Wow.
No. How do you think he suffered that?
Hanging out with you too much.
I'm going to say it was one night at a strip club with James Harden, and it just gave out on him. Couldn't go any longer. Gio Urshela, rest in peace to him and his pelvis. I love Michael Kopech today. And by the way, I think Kopech is terrible. I think that he has.
I think he's gotten a lot better. I'm saying the strikeout stuff, though, the actual stuff has gotten better in the last month than it's looked since he was a reliever and a shutdown reliever at that 2 years ago.
He is my most rostered player on the entire slate.
Oh my god!
And I think he has big regression coming his way. For fantasy, it doesn't matter though, because the strikeout stuff has been so good as of late that any sort of success he has is going to be on the back of a strikeout. And the Rangers are the single most popular stack on the entire slate. So there's leverage to be had there. A 26.7% strikeout rate for Michael Kopech. If you look through his game logs also, like Eric was saying, the strikeout's been much better in recent starts. The last one notwithstanding, where he just could not throw strikes. So what?
The FanDuel slate starts in 5 minutes and 50 seconds, and I just reserved these entries. They have the Atlanta Philly game on it. I didn't even notice that. Great. Oh shit. I was looking at it and I was like, wait, why does this look weird? I was like, why is Aaron Nola on the fucking slate? I was like, oh my God. All right. So go ahead, keep talking.
You go ahead and do your thing there. It's fine. I thought there was some sort of like crazy breaking news because it was breaking news to you, the way that you were reacting to it, because you're sitting there like looking at the screen like, oh my God, what happened? Like, did LeBron retire? Was it because that was the kind of reaction you had, is like there was a crazy pitcher
and there's weather in this game? Son of a biscuit. Oh my God. Do I just full fade it? I can't full fade Atlanta and Philly.
Yeah, I mean, with you having 6 minutes to go, I would upload. I'm telling you what I would do if I was in your scenario. I would create dummy lineups to overwrite your existing lineups, and I would take the Atlanta Philly game out, and you just hope it either rains out or doesn't kill you. And it gives you more time to actually create your lineups.
I have 4 minutes and 40 seconds to create my lineups. I've done zero of that.
So just take the first game out.
Yep, I did.
And then just run lineups over it, and then you get yourself another 30 minutes.
Such a fish. Such a fish.
Michael Kopech, anyway.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
What I was saying about Kopech is his last start was absolute dog shit pitching against the Mariners. Walked 6 hitters in 4 1/3 innings. So that was an issue for him for sure. But you look at the starts before then, and he was showing a form, like Eric had said, that we hadn't seen from him in a really long time. 6 strikeouts and a walk, 9 strikeouts and a walk, 10 strikeouts, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, walk, 10 strikeouts, no walks. So did he regress last start? Hopefully not. But what I'm really looking at as the encouraging part from a DFS perspective is that he's shown a clear ability to generate strikeouts. He's going up against an offense that's projected for a massive amount of ownership. The numbers, all kinds of red flags for Michael Kopech. He's a 3.92 ERA, but a 5.08 expected ERA, 5.31 FIP. I think stacking against him is totally reasonable. But at the same time, too, with all that strikeout upside that he has, I'm going to be prioritizing him in large field tournaments when he's only projected for 10% ownership, and we are giving him a 19% chance to be one of the top 2 scoring pitchers on the slate. So all of our data does point towards the Rangers being a good stack, and then Michael Kopech in his own right being a really good contrarian pitcher to get to. So it's one that I think both sides make sense, but I really do like Kopech for tournaments because nobody's really going to be playing him.
I heard zero of what you said, but it sounded great.
Oh, good. How are your lineups coming along?
Not good. I got a little bit in there. All right. 3 minutes. Nobody told me that. I just am over here. Oh, you know what? I'll put more in there. I didn't even notice it because I just took unowned stacks in the top stacks tool when I built I had 3 total lineups that I had on FanDuel. Now I have 153 because I'm stupid.
Well, the chat is happy about it, especially the people who are playing the FanDuel slate, because they feel like you've taken away from the rake a little bit now.
I have.
So there you go. People in the chat, they're excited about you playing against them with lineups that seemingly are random right now. We'll see. Eric has got 3 minutes to get those lineups in. We've got a question from Heflove in our Discord channel. He wants to know, not getting to the New York Yankees in single entry. No, I am not going to be playing the Yankees in single entry. Actually don't have that much exposure to the Yankees overall. I could tell you. So I'm playing 20 lineups today, but if I was playing 150, my exposure to the Yankees would be, hardly any. I'd have 4% of them as a stack.
I have 0 exposure to the Yankees on a very minimal slate. They're such a dog shit stack.
Yeah, so no Yankees for me today. The main reason to get to them would just be all the ownership that's on Luis Castillo. But I think there's other ways that I can make my lineups contrarian and get leverage on the slate. The Yankees aren't going to be one of them. Not for me, at least today. Other spots where I like to do that. Not the Yankees today. If we look through the rest of the pitchers on the slate, Garrett Whitlock, Sonny Gray, Michael Grove, Paul Blackburn. Honestly, I'm not really getting to too much exposure to anybody other than the guys we've already talked about. Just kind of summing it up. On the high end, I'm prioritizing Shohei Ohtani. If I'm going contrarian, the answer for me is Michael Kopech. If you're going cheap, I think Gavin Williams is the best cash game play for cheap. And then also in large field tournaments, I don't really have an issue with his ownership, but I'm also going to be getting leverage stacking against him. We've got a super chat here from Mr. CoolCam97. He wants to know top single entry stack and top contrarian stack for FanDuel. Yeah, I'll pull up the FanDuel right now.
Atlanta. Literally, Eric, go F yourself, dude. Atlanta, highest leverage team. I have 0 of them. This is just so dumb. I am so dumb.
All right, so Eric's answer is going to be the Atlanta Braves.
Yep, especially because I have 0 of them. So there you go. They're contrarian now.
I think the Braves make a good amount of sense. Aaron Nola is expected to be the single most popular pitcher on the FanDuel slate, 24% owned. We've got the Braves only 2% owned as a stack. I'm going to say the Atlanta Braves. And I promise this is not to troll Eric. It's because it's what I think the answer
is. It just is. It's an ancillary benefit.
Yeah. Hey, 2 birds with 1 stone. I answered the question correctly and maybe made my friend a little bit upset there as well. So that's going to be my answer, Mr. Cool Cam, is I think it should be the... No, I'm not going to say that, Larry. See. So I think the answer should be the Atlanta Braves. And how about an answer outside?
Wait, it's not starting till 7:15?
Well, I
don't. Did it get pushed back for weather?
I don't think that's pertinent information, is it?
Well, I mean, the game locks at... I mean, the slate locks because of that game, so I'm confused. Am I going to be able to go to lock? Because let me pull up my lineups here. Yeah, it locked. So
yeah,
who cares?
So
thanks, Larry C.
I'm only playing on DraftKings today, not FanDuel. So I think the game is in a rain delay to start, except the players still lock when they lock.
Yeah, because I'm Bryce Harper, 18% owned. Yeah. So, oh God.
So let's give Mr. Cool Cam, because I don't know if he was able to build these lineups right now. If the answer isn't the Atlanta Braves, who is the top single entry stack / top contrarian stack? They could even be different ones for you over on FanDuel, Eric.
Angels. There's no Shohei Ohtani, and it always sucks. It's always the absolute stone cold worst, but there's positive leverage going to them. There's also positive leverage on the Dodgers. It's never bad to get positive leverage with the Dodgers, even against Shohei Ohtani. I would play the Dodgers against anybody where there's positive leverage. They're just that kind of a stack, especially at the top. That's Freeman, Will Smith, you know the characters. But the Angels, you get some cheaper exposure to certain pieces. You have Mickey Moniak leading off for this baseball team against righties going forward. It's going to be a straight out bullpen game where you're going to be getting some long relief guys for the Dodgers. This Dodgers bullpen hasn't been as good as people think. And Gratterall will go out there and throw 103 to start off the game. And then it's going to be Michael Grove primarily, and that just doesn't feel like somebody that you want on the mound with his over 8 ERA for the course of this season. So long as he's the guy who does make the appearance here, even if it isn't if it's these other pieces, this bullpen has certain guys, just like every bullpen in baseball. Even Oakland has a couple of pieces, but I'm looking at guys who would be more likely. Michael Grove, a 505 expected slugging. That's who's expected to be. You have Brazier, 298 expected batting average, 452 expected slugging. Alex Vesia probably will show up at some point, 280 expected batting average. They have a lot of pieces that they'll have to get to before they can get to some of the shutdown guys. Caleb Ferguson's even had his warts over the course of this season, lefty out of the pen. So I feel like the Dodgers are a team that everybody's kind of nervous about, but I get Trout, I get Drury, I get Ward, I get Moniak at his cheap tag across everywhere with a 514 expected slugging. Do I think that continues? Probably not. But Jared Walsh, I expect positive regression. Lots of pieces 1 through 7 that I have a lot of interest in that lineup.
It is, for me, the Boston Red Sox against Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray's just had some real stinkers of performances lately, and his strikeout rate is so far down in June that it's pretty concerning. He's a 14.5% K rate this month, a 4.57 xFIP. Overall, the numbers for him this season don't look terrible. Like, he's not going to be able to maintain this ERA at 2.37, the underlying. Like, he's got a 3.71 expected ERA. It's just something weird is going on with him in the recent starts where he's not generating any kind of swing and misses. That I don't know if he's dealing with an injury or tipping his pitches. Something just doesn't really look right about Sonny Gray in terms of his splits for the last month. So I'm going to go with the Boston Red Sox, projected for almost no ownership. I think the Boston offense is probably better than a lot of people realize, Yoshida being a big part of that. So I don't have an issue with the Angels either, but just another offense that I think is a little bit under-owned. Boston Red Sox for me.
Yep, 107 WRC plus against righties. They pretty much just beat up righties. If we could get Duvall, well, I'm definitely a Twins fan, but they need to get Duvall healthy. So once they go up against lefties here, he's been in the lineup the last couple. He hasn't looked the same to me in a lot of ways. Still, I mean, they're a potent offense against anybody. You just saw it yesterday against Ober.
We've got a super chat here from Smoke Show. He wants to know, are there any concerns with the weather in the Seattle and New York game? And then wants to know thoughts on Kopech against Texas. Super risky, but he's my favorite contrarian pitching play on the slate. One of the main reasons, too, is there are just not very many contrarian pitchers that I think are within the realm of reasonable today. And Kopech, there's at least strikeout upside there. So I like him as a contrarian play. As for weather concerns in the Seattle-New York game, it's been raining a little bit on and off here in the area because I don't live all that far from New York where I am, but I don't think it's going to be an issue, at least not a big enough issue to make it cancel the game or anything like that.
Yep, with you.
Let's go and build some lineups in the MLB lineup generator. Jordan Klein, throw it up on screen. Let's build some lineups for DraftKings. We'll build some lineups for, actually just for DraftKings because the FanDuel slate is already locked. So that wouldn't really have as much utility. So let's just do it for DraftKings. One thing I'm going to note here, guys, if you want to sign up for our lineup generator for the first time, use the link below. Less than $5. Super cheap way to get access to lineups that are going to be built for you. You have a couple of inputs and you could discard lineups you dislike, save lineups you like, up to 20 of them, and you upload them directly to FanDuel or DraftKings. But since the FanDuel slate has already locked, as Eric found out live on the air, we're going to build DraftKings lineups right now. And let's go all stack types but contrarian and see what ends up coming up. Because I want to see how contrarian we could get. I know a lot of our projections love the Guardians, and I'm kind of curious to see how much of Cleveland we end up getting to here. All right, Jordan, clicking the buttons. Yeah, a lot of Cleveland.
Yep.
A ton of Cleveland. Jose Ramirez, our most roster hitter, second most roster hitter. Andres Jimenez, third most roster hitter. Ahmed Rosario, not all that far down. Stephen Kwan, Josh Bell, Bo Naylor, Josh Naylor, Will Brennan. So many Cleveland Guardians here popping up across the lineups in the lineup generator. To make it a little contrarian, I'm surprised a lot of Garrett Whitlock popping up. So that's the guy who's apparently differentiating lineups, as well as Shohei Ohtani on the high end. I'm not really getting too much of Garrett Whitlock. Is he somebody who made it into your lineups, Eric?
A little bit. Nothing crazy. He's popping in some spots. I get it. And now looking at our projections, I get it as well. Minnesota's lineup's dog shit. Injuries have just kind of crippled them. No Jorge Polanco. We didn't have Joey Gallo for a long stretch. Kirilloff hasn't been hitting for power, even though he's got a 60 out of 60 raw grade power score over on FanGraphs. We're playing Michael Taylor too freaking much. Royce Lewis has started to settle down. We're still waiting for, any kind of semblance of Byron Buxton from last year. I know he went yard when we were down 10-0 yesterday. Yay, go team. But Byron Buxton's an MVP caliber player, is hitting 209 with just 11 homers so far. He's been dinged up at times this year like he is every single year. It hasn't been very good for Minnesota. So it's not so much Garrett Whitlock's going to smash. It's that this Minnesota Twins team can be pretty exploitable. They'll strike out, and there's not a lot of contact with the baseball at the given time.
I mean, so it's funny. I won a GPP with him his last start, so I feel like I should be biased towards playing him, but he's not showing up in any of my lineup. So it just
so there's that. Data is data, my friend. Data is data.
By the way, Timmy's Lim in chat is saying Eric is funny when he's mad.
I've been told that before. I appreciate you. I don't think my wife would find it very funny that we just bought a house and that I am all of a sudden just throwing money into a fire cauldron because I was busy on Live Before Lock. She's like, literally, it's your job to make lineups. And it happened literally today. So it's fine.
Oh, all right. Today. Congratulations, Derek.
Thank you.
And by the way, now you guys are all obligated to upload shitty lineups. Late swap all your FanDuel lineups to play shitty lineups to help out Eric.
Smile, Eric. Gosh. How about you fuck off, Timmy Slim? How about that?
I was
kidding.
He's putting out some free content to help you guys. The least you could do is upload dead lineups into FanDuel to help Eric and his shitty lineups out.
I'm terrible. There you go.
Yeah.
Go team.
Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, support Eric's work so that he could afford the house he just bought.
Yeah, not anymore. Sorry, honey. FanDuel took it all.
Sotex, did you bet the house payment tonight on the Atlanta Philly game?
Well, no, I did. I did the opposite. I have 0 of them. I just took them entirely out of the pool. I was getting to them, and then it wasn't stacking correctly because I'm a spaz. So it's whatever.
We're not going to have the Holiday Inn background anymore?
We're not. It's going to be going away July 31st. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's a quick move.
Pending inspection. We have inspection tomorrow. We have a bunch of stuff, and then we have a month before we'll move out of here to the house. We're going to take it nice and slow, it sounds like. But it's a pretty cool story how everything came together in like the course of the last week and a half. My best friend, he lost his father. And it was a really awful thing for me.
But you just started by saying it's a really cool story, and then it starts with your friend's dad.
He lost his father, but he's also our real estate agent. My best friend is, and the fact that we were able to find the house that we've been looking for years and years and years, and everything went as smoothly as it did. I don't want to jinx it. Because there's this as a homeowner. There's a lot of things you got to be double checking and triple checking, and you got to make sure all your T's crossed, I's dotted. Almost said that backwards. You know what I mean? It's good stuff. So really fun to be able to find that all and have it all come together. It's been just a whirlwind 10 days.
Yeah, no, I know. You got to dot those I's, cross those T's, make sure everything is correct. Just like uploading lineups to FanDuel. It's the exact same thing. No difference. But anyway, congrats. That is really exciting.
Thanks,
and I look forward to you telling me more about that.
Thanks.
At a time when we don't have 10 minutes to go until lock.
That seems fun.
Also, if you guys, once again, shout out to Sleeper who is sponsoring our show. Want to remind you guys that if you're signing up at Sleeper for the first time, use our link below because it's going to get you up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. But let's go and talk about some stacks now, Eric, because we haven't really gotten to talk all that much about them. Let's start by looking at some of the chalk. And I want to refresh our ownership here and see where it is at now. Because we had the Texas Rangers projected as the most popular stack on the entire slate, which is still the case. They're projected for 14% ownership as a team over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, the Rangers projected for 11.4% ownership, where there's a little bit more action because there's one more game on the slate. What are you doing with the Texas Rangers as the most popular stack on the slate? When both you and I have said we're going to be playing some Kopech in large field tournaments.
Yeah, I'm still going to get to Texas. I just got all my sim stuff there. I just got done being a panicked, frolic little child with FanDuel. I have no idea what I have over there. I think I have players that are playing baseball today, so that's good. As I'm looking at the sim, I'm still going to be getting to Corey C. I'm getting to all the big boppers still from Texas. I don't think that that's surprising. You can still play chalk on certain slates. You're just combining it with other pieces. And as we upload everything with the sims, it does a lot of that work for you, finds the best lineups that don't just min cash, but end up finding their way to the top of tournaments. We've seen people be successful with these tools right out of the gate. It's definitely helped my ROI over the course of the last couple of weeks. I think it's a very quick and easy way to fix your process. And as I'm looking at some of my top projected lineups, most of them, I mean, I'm getting more Cleveland than I would want here at the moment, but they're coming in with such high simulated expected ROI that it's hard to get away from some combination of them. A lot of them being combined with Boston Red Sox as I'm looking through it. So shout out to you, but Corey Seager looks like he's showing up in just about everything for me.
Yeah, so I'm going to be underweight to the field on the Rangers just by the fact that I have a lot of Michael Kopech. I'm getting to some Ranger stacks, not nearly as much as the field at 14% where the field is at. My two most rostered teams are the Oakland A's and the chalky Cleveland Guardians, still making into a good percentage of my lineup. So those are the two stacks that I'm getting the most of. The Oakland A's has nothing to do with them individually as a team as much as they're going up against an unknown pitcher who's very well regarded, but is also going to be super popular on DraftKings today. And that kind of variance is enough reason for me to just say, like, hey, if this is a situation we don't know exactly what the outcome is going to be, give me the side that's significantly lesser owned, which is going to be the Oakland A's offense. But I totally understand the merits for rostering Gavin Williams on the other side as well. The other stack here, I know you mentioned, Eric, that you're getting to a lot of the Guardians in the Sims. Same for me. What are you going to be doing with them? Do you think you're going to ultimately end up being overweight to the field, at the field, or underweight to Cleveland?
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually end up overweight now, which again sounds stupid. It's like once in a while what happens is that you adjust certain pieces, and obviously if I have a lot of Williams, I do get the win bonus. There's a lot of ways that works out for like an ultra upside game. Doesn't matter as much as it does on FanDuel, that's for sure, but still doesn't hurt. Seattle is problematic right now too because they're starting to show up for me. I'm going to definitely storm. It depends. I mean, I can totally see them getting after Johnny Brito, not even a pitcher we talked about because he's been as disappointing as possible for Yankees fans this season. But fortunately, still seeing all those Angels at the top of the lineups for me, and that's good enough.
Yeah, and I know you had mentioned before that you do like getting to the Angels a whole bunch, and I'm just wondering, how are you navigating it with the absence of Shohei Ohtani? Because there are a lot of times where I look at our top stacks tool and it's like, hey, the Angels aren't projected for that much ownership on Ohtani starts because you don't have access to Ohtani. The thing I hate about stacking the Angels in these spots where it's an Ohtani start is you get some of these numbers like, hey, look, they put up 7 runs, but Ohtani had a home run. He had an extra base hit. He contributed to like a large percentage of their fantasy points. So how are you navigating the Angel stacks and who are you prioritizing with Ohtani not being an option?
Yeah, so I'm prioritizing Mike Trout. That shouldn't surprise anybody. He's one of my highest owned batters. I guess I was going 1 through 7, skipping over the Ohtani spot, obviously, but getting to some Renifo now in the 8 hole as well. Chad Wallach, Mickey Moniak, Taylor Ward, Mike Trout. My outfield is just littered with these guys. I think it's going to be a great spot so long as you're getting a majority of this game from Michael Grove. He's been abysmal for this baseball team. I know that it's going to be some semblance of a bullpen game, and the Dodgers will play matchups. They won't necessarily just go straight to Grove at times, but anything that we've seen out of them this season with a 5.05 expected slugging, an 8.1 actual ERA, and then a 5.31 expected ERA, it doesn't look good for him. We'll put it that way. The ground ball rate is basically non-existent there at 36%. He's eventually going to start giving up a lot of long balls, even though he just has a 23.7% fly ball rate. Michael Grove, definitely somebody that I want to be early to the party on stacking against if he's just not the announced starter anymore.
Want to highlight some winners?
Yeah, let's do that.
Because we said Swanson79 in chat messaged me and said, thanks for helping me get the lineup generator. Took second in the $1 single entry last night.
Let's go.
Like to see that. Shout out to Swanson79. Then also, we had somebody add us on Twitter yesterday, Michael Kipp. Michael Kipp said that he signed up for the MLB Sims tool, and in his first day using it, first day came in second in the mini max, ended up winning $5,000. Whole tool paid for himself. He said, literally, my first day with the MLB Sims tool had my biggest MLB DFS hit Great product, already paying off. Thanks for the great content. Love to see it. So 2 different tools, but still different people paying off different ways. Swanson 79 coming in second, the $1 single entry, and the Michael Kipp last night coming in second in the mini max for DraftKings over there. So if you guys want to sign up for any of our tools, we do have all the links below in the description box. And always want to shout out some of you guys when you add us on Twitter and tell us about your wins. And if you want to be in the Stochastic Hall of Fame, make sure you have your avatar or our logo as your avatar on DraftKings or FanDuel. And if you have a win, add us. Get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, and you get featured on the show. So congrats to Swanson and to Kip. Love to see those winners. Other stacks, Eric, are there any really contrarian teams that you're getting overweight to? A team that isn't really picking up much ownership?
I mean, we can go back, Boston's not playing a crazy amount. Seattle's not playing a crazy amount. Seems like I'm getting to a lot of them. And then the Dodgers just anytime you get a low-owned Dodger team, I know it's Shohei Ohtani. I think Shohei Ohtani wins this matchup a majority of the time. That's not the question. The question is, how many times do they completely destroy a slate? I'm going to say more than 5% of the time, as does our top stacks tool. We've got 2.4% value percentage. They're extremely expensive. People aren't going to want to combine them, but you should know I have all the salary in the world to use because I have 100% Gavin Williams. So with that in mind, if the two things work together in unison, you're getting to the top of the board pretty easily if it's Dodgers having one of those nights.
It's funny because I was kind of looking through and I was going to say, I was going to give you an ownership barometer and I was going to say less than 5%, but there's only one team projected for less than 5% ownership, and it's the New York Yankees. So kind of hard to make that the barometer. There aren't that many teams that are projected for crazy low ownership today. So if we're just looking at the sub 10% owned teams, I don't mind the Angel shout out going up against Michael Grove. I know you don't get access to Shohei Ohtani, but still, it's a matchup against Michael Grove, who, while he isn't the starter, is going to be pitching the bulk innings, and I don't mind that at all. I'm going to stick with the Boston Red Sox, who I talked about before. Just something isn't quite right with Sonny Gray. 14.5% K rate over the last month. A lot of contact against him. His peripheral numbers suggest there's some regression coming. So Boston Red Sox, a team that I like getting to as a little bit of a contrarian play. By the way, how are you doing managing your lineups?
I got it. I got both up. I'm just hoping that game doesn't play. I think there's actually, as I was looking at Twitter, because I didn't bet it last night, didn't bet it this morning. I didn't know that there was any weather going on with it, and all of a sudden it's in part of my DFS slate. I think there's actually a chance it doesn't play. That would be awesome. It says it starts. Never mind. Everybody already said that it starts at 7:15. But I'm saying there's a chance. There's a lot of rain in the area there. Can we get one time dealer a little rain out action?
Ooh, can we get the rain god involved? Can we get that? Maybe somebody
Toto?
To help out.
Isn't
Eric's
that Toto?
lineups?
I bless the rains down in Africa.
Great song, by the way.
It's so good.
There's
never been a wider conversation than us saying we like Toto Africa. Like, might as well just join the fraternity of douchebaggery.
What was the FIFA game that was in the soundtrack?
I don't know.
It was one of the.
I just know that Weezer does a cover of it that's really great too. Again, that's even whiter than the thing I just said.
That's a step too far white for me. That's where I draw the line. I'm not going to join you on that. I've also never heard it before. I'll look it up after this though.
Sports whiz, Eric born to fail won't matter. Thanks.
Listen,
that's a funny troll.
YouTube chat that makes some good points from time to time.
See, Weezer did do a good cover of it. I wasn't lying.
I've just never heard it before.
Oh, it's so good. We're listening to it after.
Check it out after this. We'll check it out after this. Looking through some of the other stacks, are there any teams that you do not like relative to their ownership that you're coming in underweight to the field to?
Well, I can't say Cleveland anymore, so I'm a hypocrite. I finish it. I just put everything away because it was just, I was so relieved. I was so relieved to get done. Looks like I am getting to 0 Yankees, but they're not popular. I'm getting to next to no White Sox. They're popular. I'm getting to a lot of Padres, so can't say that one. I'm getting to almost none of my Twins too. It's sad. It's sad stuff, but they are just not very good.
Yeah, Twins project for nearly. So the two teams I'm most underweight to the field to are the Rangers and the Twins. The Rangers absolutely scare the shit out of me. I could absolutely see how that goes sideways for me. In fact, I think it going sideways is probably the most likely scenario, but they're the most popular stack on the slate. I'm playing some Kopech, so It is what it is. If the Rangers go out and they hang like a crooked number on the board, what's going on now?
Braves Phillies won't start at 7:15.
Oh,
More rain.
Oh, I'll tell you, there's
from you.
So
now I'm feeling.
By the way, if this game rains out, I need you to go on Twitter and start trolling people and talk about how sharp it was to avoid the first game of the FanDuel slate.
I just removed it from my player pool completely intentionally, and in no way, shape, or form was just simply talking and not paying attention to my lineups.
You know what was funny about that is your reaction right there was the absolute inverse of you finding out that the game was on the slate.
It's very true.
Let's look it up. I've got. Have you ever heard of Google?
What's that?
It's this thing. You can look stuff up on it. I'm going to look up the weather for Atlanta and see what it is that's popping up. All right. So weather. Wait, is the game in Philly
it's in Philly.
or
Philly?
Game in
Philly.
Games in Philly. All right. So Philly weather. Weather Philly. Weather Philly. Let's see, what are the chances? Dude, I think you're pretty live here. So we've got the rain is now expected until about 8 p.m.
That's what I said. I
then
knew
there's
it the whole
a gap
time.
for a couple of hours, and then it's supposed to rain the rest of the night. There is an opportunity here for you where if this rain lingers a little longer than expected, the field conditions aren't great. They must go, you know what? Maybe they just throw in the towel. They go, fuck it. Let's throw Eric a bone. We know he deserves it. He's grinding the candle at both ends. Let's help out his ROI a little bit in MLB DFS. I think you're going to be on the right side of this.
Pay that mortgage. Pay that mortgage. Let's go.
By the way, Neil in chat saying weather Greg exclamation point. Let's see if we go weather. Can you abbreviate? Does it work if I go weather Philly?
Should work.
Yeah, nice. Kevin saying excellent. Yeah, that was the Mr. Burns. I don't know if you were doing it intentionally, the Mr. Burns there. Oh, no, it doesn't work. Error, city not found, Philly. Well, I'm not nobody could spell Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I'm not a genius here. I spell it Philly.
It's also a cesspool of sadness and broken dreams. So there's that too.
Yeah. And Aton, which is
the same as the first two things I said.
No, but like that's more like just like disillusioned. Right? Because because it's just an alternate reality he lives in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
my tweets are getting down. My tweets are getting down.
Just that's Blender. That's not Aton.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. Anyway, we are right at the end of our show here. If you guys have not done yet, do us a favor. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and consider checking out our podcast channel as well, the Stochastic Podcast channel. And if you do, leave us a review out there. 5 stars is preferable. But if you guys are maybe on your way home from work, haven't had a chance to listen to the strategy show, go check out our podcast. It might be the easiest way for you guys to listen to our strategy shows in the morning, live before locks. You're probably not going to want to listen to live before lock after the fact on the podcast, but strategy shows really convenient if you guys don't have the time to watch some of our later shows. So go check that out. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Good luck with all your lineups. See you guys back here tomorrow.